Horror movies. A staple of cinema since the early days, the need to scare audiences while telling a story has always been a popular source of entertainment. The depth that directors, writers, and actors can go to give us incredible films in this genre is boundless, and there have been several films throughout film history that have done this. Whether it's zombies or slashers, demons or aliens, or humanity itself, the unique stories, characters, and aesthetics of the horror genre easily show why the genre has survived for so long. Filmmakers continue to expand and explore the genre, giving us bombastic scares as well as more personal, more intimate stories. On this top 10 list, we here at Real Watchers want to take a look at what we think makes a good horror movie, and talk about the films that we love within the genre. Every slot on this list has a purpose, and we'll talk you through it as we go along. And a brief reminder before we start. This list is made up of our humble opinions, and we know you are going to disagree with some of our picks. We'd love to see what all of you would have put in your top 10 lists in the comments below. You never know, they may influence a later revisit of this video. On with the list! For our number 10 slot, we want to take a look at the films that come from franchises that make up a large part of the horror genre. Films that fit into this category would include Paranormal Activity, supernatural films that reignited the found footage craze. There's also The Purge, tackling violence and political themes. In this category, we also find the Saw films, as well as Final Destination. However, there's one franchise that has seemingly dominated horror over the last 10 years, and we want to talk about the movie that started it all, The Conjuring.
Hey, wanna play hide and clap?
We know this is a bold choice, given how good The Conjuring 2 is as well. Even though the rest of the franchise ranges from pretty disappointing to outright terrible, the only standout being Annabelle Creation, we would be remiss, however, not to award this spot to the originator. The film that proved that not only James Wan was a horror icon in the making, but that you didn't need a reliance on jump scares to make a popular, effective horror offering. The cast is incredible, anchored by wonderful performances from Vera Farmiga and Patrick Wilson. The ways that James Wan is able to utilize the space and his camera to create true tension and horror is palpable. While there are jump scares in the film, it never feels reliant on them, which is good, because jump scares would have sunk this movie to the level of The Nun. Its scares and iconic moments contribute wonderfully to the film's story, and it never feels like it's taking advantage of its audience. Because of that, it's our number 10 pick. Next up at number 9, we want to talk a specific type of horror film, slashers. There are incredible horror films and icons in this category, such as Michael Myers in the Halloween franchise, Freddy in A Nightmare on Elm Street, Jason in Friday the 13th, Norman Bates in Psycho, Candyman in, Candyman, and Chucky in Child's Play. Another obvious choice here would be the incredible Scream series, whose meta-narratives are edged out by our number 9 pick, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. There's something so visceral and real about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre that we just can't get over. And to be frank, we're not talking about any of its subpar sequels, we're only talking the original here. Leatherface is iconic and menacing, and what's most scary about him is that he's just as he is. There's no supernatural stuff, no powers, just a man with a chainsaw. But you also have to remember the family he's with. They're just as terrifying and ruthless as he is, and their inclusion into the film is a fantastic choice. However, the most terrifying part about the film is that it feels the most realistic of any of the slasher films. The only other one that comes close is Psycho. The very idea that this could be happening in rural Texas somewhere is a truly horrifying thought, and we don't want to know how many teenagers have gone missing out there. All we know is that the film has had a lasting legacy on not only the genre, but film as a whole. And with that in mind, it more than earns our number 9 slot. At number 8, we want to get away from a specific genre for the moment and focus on the genre-bending films that use horror in their premise. In this category, we get the incredible The Cabin in the Woods, a well-made satire of horror films. There are also films like Get Out, which combine horror with biting social commentary. We also want to shout out the inimitable Evil Dead 2, which brilliantly used comedy to offset its horror by giving us a career-defining performance from Bruce Campbell. However, Evil Dead 2 is just ever so slightly nudged out by our number 8 pick, Shaun of the Dead.
Oh my god. She's so drunk.
Shaun of the Dead brilliantly combines its zombie horror with the hilarious comedy of Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, and Edgar Wright. Its dialogue is so fantastically written and acted, and it's just so damn clever that you'll completely miss the fact that it's telling you everything that's gonna happen. Not only that, but Edgar Wright behind the camera is elevating this film beyond being just a zom-com, bringing his A-game to the transitions and touches of detail. What's also great about the film is that it's a parody, but one that respects and loves the films it's parodying and paying homage to, unlike the derivative and painfully unfunny Scary Movie films. This film is the only zombie movie to appear on this list, which not only speaks to the quality of zombie films, but to this film in particular. It's this love and respect, plus a healthy dash of excellent filmmaking, that earns Shaun of the Dead a well-deserved spot on our list. Let's talk about the indie scene. In our opinion, this is where some of the best and brightest new voices are coming from in the genre. Here we find incredible films like Under the Skin, which we guarantee is not the kind of film you're expecting. There's also The Vigil, a fantastic haunted house film that centers on Jewish folklore. Or there's The Witch, mixing a period piece with horror. However, when it comes to indie horror films, we don't think there's one better than It Follows.
To tell you all, I shall tell you all. If one settling a pillow by her head should say, that is not what...
It Follows is both refreshingly new and wonderfully executed. From its incredible intro sequence to its final moments, we really don't feel like any other film quite matches it. We here at Real Watchers are not really fans of jump scares, but It Follows does have one of the best jump scares we've ever seen. Without spoiling it, it involves a hallway and a door. If you know what it is, you know. The idea and story is also refreshingly original, and doesn't give the viewer any indication where anything will be going. From the production point of view, the film is gorgeous. It's well shot, and every location feels constricting and threatening, lending to the film's tension. Also worth a mention is how the film creates tension and suspense in just having people walk. It's brilliant, and unlike anything we've seen in horror before. If you haven't seen It Follows, you need to see it as soon as you can. It's unlike anything you've seen and is sure to be a wonderful viewing experience your first time out. At number 6, we're returning to specific genres, and it's our favorite one, sci-fi horror. Here we get fantastic entries like A Quiet Place, with its super-hearing aliens being the stuff of our nightmares. There's also recent films like Jordan Peele's Nope, which combined the sweeping epic of Spielbergian sci-fi with Peele's signature horror flair. But, gotta be honest, this category is easy. Number 6 is the classic, The Thing. The horror of The Thing is at its most palpable in its quietest moments as much as it is during its most bombastic. Among its many incredible facets are the astounding practical effects, which bring the horrifying demises of our characters to gory life. However, as good as they are, it's not just the visual effects that cement the film in horror history. You've got a hopeless situation in a location where there's no help coming and you can't let anyone leave, and you don't know for certain who your enemy is. It's not necessarily a new story or situation, but it's handled so well in John Carpenter's hands. The cast here is also incredible, without a weak link in it, and everyone feels like a good fit for the type of character they're playing. Kurt Russell is always good in the lead role, this time getting a pretty decent before the kill line. The Thing was not a success at all when it released, and it only gained its notoriety and fame due to home release and TV airings. Now, it's considered one of the milestone films of the genre, and an inspiration for many up-and-coming filmmakers. Halfway through our list, we want to take a look back at some of the staples of the genre from its historic past. Here we get the classic Universal monsters like Frankenstein, Dracula, and The Mummy. Even further back, we come to classics like Nosferatu and The Cabinet of Dr. Caligari. But if there's any classic horror movie that sits toward the top of our ratings lists, it has to be The Exorcist.
Well then, let's introduce ourselves. I'm Damien Karras.
And I'm the devil. Now kindly undo these straps.
The Exorcist's legendary status in horror and film history cannot be ignored. While it is certainly a product of its time, the film still holds up today surprisingly well, and manages to successfully creep just about everyone out. Among the reasons for the film's success is its impeccable cast. Ellen Burstyn, Max von Sydow, and Jason Miller are all incredible in their roles, bringing complexity and life to their characters. However, no one is more legendary than Linda Blair here, whose interpretation of the character Regan is iconic and among the best performances in film history. There's a constant, enduring sense of dread throughout the film which makes you feel uneasy from beginning to end. The visuals of Regan's possession are haunting, from the scenes of physical distress to the makeup and voice. In fact, it's easily the best film version of a possession to date as far as narrative and effects are concerned. You also have to hand it to the film for getting so ingrained into pop culture that everyone knows
that the power of Christ compels you!
Or the signature head turn. It's not common to find a film that still manages to instill feelings like this into its audiences so far after release, and it's why we have to put it in this slot on our list. For number 4, we have a special spot for the art house films that attempt to push new boundaries. There are classic entries here like Japan's House, a first-time directorial effort from a Japanese commercial filmmaker. We also get France's Eyes Without a Face, a haunting film that will linger with you for a while after watching. In this category, we also get the incredible Robert Eggers film The Lighthouse, combining nautical myth with cabin fever. We also get incredible animated films like Mad God and The Wolf House. However, if there's any film that has managed to not only push boundaries while scaring the complete life out of us, it has to be Skinamarink. We know that we're going to get a lot of disagreement here, but let us explain why we think this film is so horrifying. In our opinion, no one has come close to portraying the surreal and terrifying nature of a nightmare on screen. The absence of parental figures, the fear of the dark, it's all here. Every lingering shot has you questioning if someone's there, or something. Someone just as focused on you as you are on the dark. Faces are always hidden or obscured, voices are distorted, and from beginning to end, it is absolutely terrifying. The film has the look and feel that it was filmed in the 90s, and fits into the online horror genre called analog horror. This genre is so wide open for expanding upon and giving us another frontier of horror that is only just being explored. This film feels like the best representation of internet horror we've received, and is the closest to being a true hit for a creepypasta film. Skinamarink is a very, very experimental film, and while not everyone will find this film scary or even enjoy it, we highly recommend the film as the pinnacle of experimental and exploratory horror. For number 3, we're looking at the films that actually terrify us. In this spot, we find films like The Strangers, showing us why we all need better home security systems. We also find the timeless horror classic The Ring, making us happy that we never circulate VHS tapes anymore. However, this category is another easy one for us, and we're giving it to Hereditary.
Come on, Peter. Let's just sue it.
Hereditary's terror comes from so many angles that it's a little dizzying. There's the supernatural, but also the familial. The film is, at its core, about family. It's a dysfunctional one for sure, but also feels real and is well written. Most of this stems from its incredible performances, especially the Oscar-worthy Toni Collette. Where the horror comes in is what the characters are able to do to each other, especially the later sequences of the mother chasing her son throughout the house. The supernatural, however, is much more understated than you may expect. Sure, there are blink-and-you'll-miss-it moments of people hiding in the background, but it's the more reserved scares that are the most effective. Most of these supernatural scares come from its last act, which is so crazy and effective that it will linger with you long after watching. Its images of violence and gore, as well as terror, are so tangible that the feelings you experience while watching are coming to us now as we're writing this. Hereditary is a fantastic horror film that is so scary and well crafted that it will linger with you, which is ultimately the goal of any horror film. Our penultimate horror pick is the one we're calling the realistic pick. This situation feels like it could actually happen to us if we were adventurous people and not busy sitting here watching movies and writing essays about them. Here we find films like Zodiac, based on the actual Zodiac killer from San Francisco. There's also Green Room, about a punk band trapped in a club full of violent neo-Nazis. Or Misery, a story of obsession taken way too far. However, we're handing it again to director Ari Aster for Midsommar.
What are the kids playing?
Skin the Fool.
Skin the Fool?
Yeah.
Midsommar is one of our favorite horror films of all time, and for good reason. We really can't think of a film like it. The entire film takes place during daylight during a midsummer festival in Scandinavia. College anthropology students are on a trip for their thesis to study this festival before everything starts to go wrong. The film is gorgeous, and the idea of always being daytime allows for Aster and his crew to utilize color and production design to give us one of the most beautiful horror films in recent memory. Where this film feels realistic is in the almost cult-like setting it takes place in. Groups like this actually exist in our world, and a wrong turn somewhere or a conversation with the wrong person could easily lead to this, and that is what scares us. Forget the demons, aliens, and zombies, as the most effective horror movies show us, the scariest monsters are other humans, and what we're able to do to one another. Beyond its scares, though, the film is a genuinely well-crafted film about grief and belonging, and we could not recommend a horror film more highly than this. For our number one, we wanted to choose a film that encapsulated everything we love about horror movies. A great final survivor like Laurie Strode from Halloween, or Ash from Evil Dead? A terrifying and powerful villain like Pazuzu from The Exorcist, or Leatherface from Texas Chainsaw Massacre? How about a location that causes hopelessness and a sense of isolation, like the Antarctic from The Thing, or the traps from Saw? Our number one pick has all of these things, and more, so it's our favorite, and our number one, Alien. We did say that sci-fi horror was our favorite combination, but Alien goes above its genre trappings. Alien is so incredibly designed, from the hallways and rooms of the Nostromo, to the egg chamber of the engineer's vessel, to the design of the xenomorph itself. The xenomorph, incredibly designed by legendary artist H.R. Giger, is a powerful force that continues to haunt people's memories in the decades since the film's release. Not to mention, the way it's birthed feels much like a perversion of nature that it adds beautifully to the creature's enigma. However, arguably the film's best element is its main character, Ripley. She earns her pedigree as a film heroine here, being a great foil to the xenomorph. It's brains versus brawn, and the cat and mouse game they play is completely enthralling. That's not to say the lead up to their face-off isn't good, it's amazing as well. The iconic chest burst sequence, the excursion to the engineer's vessel, and the reveal of Ash are just some of the incredible moments this film has to offer. At its core, though, is the terror of the film's location, the isolation and hopelessness of space. No one's coming to help, you're on your own. Truly, the film's tagline, "In space, no one can hear you scream," is more than fitting. So that's our list, the top 10 best horror films of all time in our humble opinion. But we know there are so many more horror films out there, and our list is by no means final or official. And we know a lot of you are going to disagree. We'd love to hear what films you would include in your top 10 in the comments below. If you haven't already, check out our previous top 10 lists about the most beautiful 2D, 3D, and stop-motion animated films. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to get notified when new videos upload in the very near future, as well as when our weekly show goes live. Thanks so much for watching, and even though these films are a little scary, keep your eyes on the screen.